So today I'm here with my very good friend Fred Tan, who is the head of global social impact at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. And very excited to have a conversation as Captivate is hosting these Pivot and Thrive interviews during this time of incredible disruption and upheaval in many industries, talking with leaders who have a lot of insights and are seeing quite a bit going on in their space, in their corner of the world. So, Fred, I'm going to turn it over to you for the first question. And that is, what is the challenge, the business challenge you're facing right now?
Thanks, Amanda. So good to be on a call with you. Um, whether it's in the social impact space or just traditional business or even just life, maybe there are infinite ones, finite resources. Got to figure out how to bridge the gap between the two, and it's challenging times. Resources now more than ever maybe feel like they're really constrained, and the times that we're living in now more so than others feels really fragile, and so bridging that gap I think is definitely a big challenge. But if we look at the human centric context as well, I think that challenge also exists, the gap between aspiration and execution. And in the human space, it's how do I help people around me become the best versions of themselves? Those are some challenges, or at least a big umbrella challenge that I'm facing right now.
Interesting, because when you've shared with me before, you've talked about too with some of the programs that you're leading, because you have a pretty big responsibility at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, that you're looking to at this as an opportunity. Whereas some people might go, oh my goodness, there's so much change. It's not good change. And you're saying, okay, wait a minute, as you shared in the past, could you talk about that a little bit, kind of where you're seeing some opportunities maybe to pivot during this time to say, okay, this is a chance to reevaluate these programs or how we're doing these programs or the partners we're working with, and maybe talk about how you're using this time not just as, uh-oh, there's a lot of change, but this can be positive change. We can come out of this on the other side in a better place, and we might not think about that initially.
As you were saying that, it reminded me of a conversation I had once with a religious leader, and he said something that really stood out to me. He said, if you're worshiping this week the same as you worshiped last week, you're probably not worshiping right. I think like the philosophy behind what he was trying to say is you got to always look to do things better. You can't keep, in this case, your worship stale. But I think in a business context, it's exactly the same. You got to keep disrupting yourself or be disrupted externally, like we're seeing the world right now. But how can we always change up what we do and find more meaning in what we do is always a question that I have. Um, and so I always think, disruption is going to happen. Either we're going to disrupt ourselves or an external disruption is going to happen. What are the set of principles, innovation principles that we can apply to be able to tide ourselves through this disruption? And for me, there are three things that I try to think about. One is there anything we can stop doing because we just can't do it anymore? We're just overburdened, or it's not the right time, or maybe there's something better that we can use our time for. So, is there anything we can stop doing? Second question I always ask is, how can we simplify? Is there anything that we're doing that we can, you know, simplify and cut down the processes that we have, the red tape that we are embroiled in? And then only then do I ask, is there anything that we can do to innovate? Can we try something new? Can we experiment and test a new hypothesis? And um, I think that's the mindset that I bring to, or at least I try to bring. And so, again, with disruptions in our world being a constant, for me personally, living life that way, not feeling like there's a recipe that I need to follow. And if one thing goes out of whack, then everything crumbles to pieces. being okay with disruption, living by principles instead of best practices or recipe. You know, that's how I try to see curveballs as an opportunity, and I really do think that, you know, if we do that, not only will we be happier, more emotionally stable, maybe, but we'll also be able to react to business challenges in, you know, hopefully a more productive way.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're talking about curveballs, which is sports, and then you're talking about baking, which I get a lot more. And I know you're a chef. You're quite the chef. You've got me beat there. But it's interesting because I think a lot of people right now are feeling like their recipe just got set on fire and it burnt up and it's gone. Like if you're
Yeah.
a student right now, you're thinking, what's the future look like with AI? Are entry level jobs going to be gone, for example? Or are we going to harness these tools and do greater and better things and all be living on Mars, right? I mean, it's kind of like there are two philosophies there. What are you thinking, personally, or what advice would you give? Because I think there's a lot of people that are feeling displaced or that they're whatever they were planning isn't happening right now, or they're unsure or maybe fearful of what the future might be versus embracing it and looking forward to it and celebrating it, right? What would you encourage people maybe to do, especially as they think about the AI and technology that's just evolving so quickly these days, we can barely keep up?
I can't imagine what it must feel like to be a student graduating right now and facing the job market that we have, or the technological disruptions that we have. Only to say that I feel for everyone, and how uncertain this period of time is for myself and lots of people that I know. Their career path has been an opportunity after another that surfaced at the right time, that led them down the path that they are now, as opposed to it being strictly in control. For me, for example, my career path that I've taken, it's not necessarily because of anything in particular that I've done well, right? That allowed me to get a job in financial crisis or what have you. It's literally the right opportunity always comes at the right time. All we can do for ourselves is to think, who do I want to be? How can I be the most resilient? And how can I give, instead of taking? And I personally feel that, you know, if we try to focus on that, good things will come.
Those mantras that might seem like a cliche at the time, but really that's what we mean by resilience and grit. And sometimes I hate when people say those words because I'm like, oh gosh, not that again, right? But that's what it's
Yeah.
about. We pick ourselves up and we keep going. And also, I think building community like we have with the social impact group and other organizations and neighborhoods and faith-based groups, community groups we're a part of. It's that community that keeps you going so you don't focus on the negative, but you focus on the positive, just as generations in the past have done that. Like we're not the first human beings to set foot on the
Yeah.
earth and to go, oh no, right?
Yeah.
Some,
And I think at each period of time, at each period of time, they thought that their problem was the existential crisis that the world was facing. And at each time, they were right. And at this time, we probably are right that this is the existential crisis of our day. But I hope folks will think about, who do they want to be, as opposed to what job do they want to have and what do they want to do. Because I think if folks focus on who they want to be and learn to become that person, everything else comes naturally, in terms of you will get the hard skills, you will get the soft skills, the right career opportunity will present itself. And if you're ambitious, the right leadership opportunity will present itself, if we start with the who exactly do we want to be. But if we start on the other side, you know, what technical skills do I need to learn and what hard skills do I need to pick up? You might pick those stuff up. You might get to the role that you want, but you will probably not get to become the person that you can be. So, um,
it's interesting if you know who you are and your value as a human being and just start there, right? You still have
Yeah.
value as a human being, even without that job, that thing. At the same time, like people need to pay their bills, right? So I think there are very practical things, like you said, where you can look at where the trends taking us, where the job trends, future casting some of these things and going, okay, healthcare is a good place, to look at, or this particular field or that particular field. And these are the skills, and setting goals for yourself, like you mentioned, being ambitious, but like specifically going, okay, I'm going to set these milestones and goals for myself, and have these skills, but I'm also going to be flexible and I'm going to keep learning. Like if we stopped
Yeah.
learning, then we wouldn't be able to shift to this pivot and thriving we're talking about. We wouldn't be able to shift throughout our career because we couldn't do that. Right? We'd be like, well, I had this one job and
Yeah.
I don't have this job, or this changed or whatever. So I guess I'm done. Right. And that's just not
Yep.
life. Like it keeps going and we keep going. We evolve with it, right? We flex with it. And that's what people, successful or happy people, do. I think they're flexible, and they don't get thrown for that curveball you mentioned and just go down when it happens, because it's going to happen and it's going to happen again. Right.
Yeah.
And it might happen 5, 10 years
Yeah.
from now. We go through something else, and we just keep going, and you can actually flourish, I think, during that, which is kind of what you're talking about. So I'll leave you with the last question, and then anything else you want to add, of course, is is just how are you thriving during this time, and like what's giving you that hope, that joy, that purpose, as you're getting up in the morning, you're going, it's going to be a good day.
A really good friend just wrote a book, and I was reading it recently, and there was a line in here that actually reminds me about um, this conversation that we're having. So the book is Today Was Fun. Um, and there is a section that said, Your impact is enough. And a quote here that I so love, I'll just read it for you if that's okay. Um, it said, Valuing scale as the ultimate aim is what turns us from humans into human resources. When you value world-changing scale as the ultimate awe-worthy goal, you simultaneously devalue human-scaled one-on-one impact. I think I'm trying to think about that more in terms of, again, who am I as a human? What does that one-on-one impact mean for me in my life with the relationships that I have? And, you for that matter, really grateful for the friendship that we share. And I think just a reminder, like you said, we are not our jobs. We are not the accumulation of our worldly accolades and successes. Those things come and go. Um, but there are things that make us uniquely human, and that's what enables us to thrive. And I've just been, reminded of that as I've read that, and I'm trying to focus on that a little bit more in my life. So yeah.
That's really great. I need that book. You're going to have to tell me that. I wrote down the title. I'm going to have to read that. Today was fun, because it should be fun.
Today
See,
was fun. Yeah.
today was fun.
And no, I love that. I agree with everything you say. And you talked about AI, and there definitely is a lot of excitement and caution around AI, and that's a whole topic for a different conversation. But I think what personally brings me comfort. I've never been mistaken as the smartest person in the room. And so to know that there is a technology called artificial intelligence that is super smart and can do things much quicker than I can, like that is old news for me. It's just the story of my life. But what technology cannot replace is that one-to-one human connection. It cannot replace who you are, your being, your identity, and the ability to connect one-on-one with people, and when many people connect one-on-one with each other, to create a community. And for all the talk about AI, and there definitely is a lot of potential there, I'm convinced the real difference in life or in business still happens on the individual level, on a one-to-one basis, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So yeah, I just love what you said about that one-to-one connection and communities, because that part I don't think is going away, regardless how the world changes. I think that will always remain constant. Yeah. The need to prove the value of social impact isn't unique to just the social impact space, but it's something that every single department has to prove. HR and engineering and our IT folks, and it goes back to again the principles that I try to live by. What can we stop doing? What can we simplify? And then how can we innovate? And those three things apply to whatever job anyone's doing. Can be a librarian, can be a chef. How can we um, do good better? And I think for us in the social impact space, there has been a good maturing of how impact has been tied to business. There's been, brand amplification leadership. There's been talent attraction and retention. I think we need to build on that good foundation, and now again really look to impact needs to be tied to innovation potential and revenue opportunity. That is, I think, where the sector needs to get to, and to get there ethically. And I think we can. Again, I think we can. So, yeah.
That was another ray of hope. We can, right? You're like, I think we can make it. So I can end on that note that we can make it. And these are things we can do if we focus on people and do things ethically. We can overcome challenges. I mean, that's pretty much what this whole conversation was about. And I personally am grateful for you and our friendship and you being the good person you are, trying to put good out into the world. So thank you for that. Fred, thank you. Anything you want to end with as your parting last words?
No, just my gratitude back to you for who you are, all you do, the friend you are, and the great example that you are to many. So a big thank you to you, Amanda.